Hey guys, Anders here. This is going to be a bit of a live commentary follow-up video from the last video that I made. And I really appreciate all the support on the last video. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. It will kind of help you figure out what's going on in this video a bit more. And as always, before the video starts, if you do like my channel, consider subscribing, consider liking the video. I also stream every single day at 6 p.m. EST. All my socials, especially my stream, can be found in the description down below. Anyway, now that we have the formalities out of the way, I wanted to kind of elaborate on some points that I made in the video that I mentioned before. I mentioned that in order to kind of know angles of the map, right, you kind of have to know the map itself and how it's shaped. For instance, say you are going to peek this here and look up there. Now, you would think that, let's say a guy peeks this, you would think that I would aim there, because that's about where the enemy's chest would be. But knowing the map, I would know that the most likely peek location would actually be a head glitch here. Now, you can peek this chest level here, but this is honestly a less common peek than the people peeking as a head glitch. Now, obviously, not all players are smart and they will do this, but in general, I'd say that this is a good example of knowing how the map is shaped and knowing how certain things can be peeked. Now, another thing I mentioned, actually neglected to mention this in my last video. Let's find a good example of this. So, let's take this pillar, right? Now, this pillar obviously has edges, and it can be used to cut off other angles. Now, let's get to the edges part. So, what I mean by edges is, obviously, when people peek things, they're most likely going to be peeking over an edge or to the side of an edge. So, using these edges, we can use them to peek more tightly into other angles. See what I mean here? Say I want to peek that angle right there, by that little light pole. I can use this to peek more tightly into that as an edge. See that? Now, this is a mistake a lot of people make. Say that somebody is in this very common position here on Devastation. We've all seen this position. It's a head glitch. It can be a total bitch to kill someone here. A lot of people make the mistake of peeking it like this, where they just run out into this area and do that. But what they don't understand is they can use, once again, this edge or this edge in order to more tightly peek that angle, leaving themselves less exposed and having the better peek. Now, this can obviously be done pretty much anywhere. This is a fundamental aspect of really how you play FPS games. Certain things are harder to do than others, like, say you're trying to kill this guy in the head glitch, right? I honestly wouldn't normally take the fight here, in general, because unless you know that, you know, you can just mess him up immediately, I would typically try and run back and find a better way to peek that. Now, notice where my crosshair is. I'm always kind of, you know, keeping out, looking out for common angles that I would expect people at. I would try to flank around and shoot him in the side here. There's a bunch of different ways to doing this, obviously, and it extends to every map in the game, obviously. But Devastation is just my favorite map to demonstrate things on, because I think it really offers a lot of ways you can be creative with how you peek things. This is what I'm doing here. I'll give you an example of a creative way to peek something that I see pretty much nobody use. There's a front area of Devastation here, and this area can be really, really tricky because you either are forced to come in through these two small areas here, and there are a lot of sneaky angles here, like, you know, we've all been killed by some degenerate with an MMG in this position, I'm sure. But a lot of people don't know is you should really experiment, because can actually break these windows here and jump up here and see that person and all the way inside here. This obviously takes some, you know, experimentation and so a little know-how with the map. You need to know the map and you need to look around for creative angles, but you can always peek something from an angle that you wouldn't typically expect you could peek it from. And that's a really good example of that. A note about crosshair placement. Again, it really comes down to knowing the map. The only reason I know where to put my crosshair in any of these situations is I played the game for long enough to know, you know, the ground height at these areas, which means I know the player model size, which means I know where to place my crosshair, which is why in this area I am aiming down, because I would be typically expecting people in this center area here or people alongside here. But let's say there's somebody close to me here. You see me do this a lot on stream. If there's somebody close, meaning let's say the enemy's here, right? You would actually want to use this right here to force him into a bad peek. So let's say he goes to peek you, right? As soon as he gets past about maybe this point, what you should be doing is you should bait him into the peek, maybe from here even. You should bait him into the peek. As soon as you see him come around that corner, you either counter strafe to cut angle off as he's coming around, or you can force him, if he's greedy enough, to peek even more and make it a bad angle into him. Because this piece of wood is a piece of shit. It's gotten a lot of players killed more often than not, simply because of the way you can use it in this angle. There are a lot of weird things like that on Battlefield maps that you can use. One of my favorites to mess people up with is actually these poles. I have made many people miss and completely mess up with these poles. Now you'd think that something as thin as this really wouldn't be able to do much, but you know, I have survived people in that window by using this pole. I'll typically be playing medic on this map, throw smoke down, and run away. Now, another thing that I could point out here is when I play Battlefield and I'm looking to get out of a sticky situation or reposition quickly, I always look for the closest area that can cut off line of sight and make me safe at the same time, which is why you saw me jump back here, because immediately I can prone and cut off all angle and just run away. In the last video, you saw me use this wall over here to completely block a person that was, I think, over here somewhere. I was behind this wall and I was peeking guy over here, and then I just prone. This is why proning is actually pretty useful in Battlefield games, because if used correctly, you can just save yourself straight up. All those angles are cut off. I'm now safe, and I can even crouch run or just prone slide away like that. I mean, that's pretty much it. You kind of, so you want to be creative. You want to be very aware of your map knowledge. It really, really goes a long way, knowing how areas are designed and knowing how to manipulate angles. It can really mess people up, man. I promise you. I don't have a, if I didn't use this technique and I didn't practice, like, cutting off angles and trying to be aware of map knowledge, I probably wouldn't have as high of a KD as I had. I'd probably die a lot more often. So that's about it for this video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you did enjoy the video, hit a like. Comment down below what you want to see. I have some pretty cool stuff in the works, including probably the best montage I have ever made. Maybe a rage montage. We'll see about that. I mean, pretty much every single one of my streams is a rage montage. But speaking of my stream, I stream every single day at 6 p.m. EST. I've done so for over 2 years. I'm very consistent. So if you like consistency, I will always be there. My Twitter can also be found in the description down below. I get mad at dice sometimes. Some people might like that. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Let me guys know what you want to see. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it.